Hello, and welcome to Real Takes and Movie Breaks. I'm Michael. Kimberly is not here, as you may notice, because today I'm doing another segment of Film School with Michael. And I want to explain, because I didn't explain last time, what exactly Film School with Michael is. The concept that I'm trying to do here is to talk about, analyze, rehash films that maybe a lot of people haven't seen, taken as much of an interest in, maybe because they seem boring, or like this is a film you would watch in film school, like, or in a film class in college or something. It's a film that is about more complex narratives and employs techniques that are things that mainly only filmmakers get excited about. So it's sort of a film made for the sake of filmmaking as a medium. The last one I did was Night of the Hunter, which is just a magnificent piece of filmmaking, and definitely one that is, revered by filmmakers and critics, and it's on the Sight and Sound poll and all that stuff. I am very much a filmmaker. I enjoy studying it, looking at all of the different pieces and the history of it, and how these different films, the older films, influenced newer films, or that's from this, or this is from that, and pulling those threads together and realizing, like, okay, this is a big giant organism that is filmmaking, and it's fun to go back and look at these different films. So today, the one that I'm going to cover is a film directed by Sergio Leone called Once Upon a Time in America, starring Robert De Niro, James Woods, Elizabeth McGovern, Tuesday Weld, Treat Williams, to name some of the actors that's in this film. It is, Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci's in this movie, which is very interesting. Burt Young from Rocky, who played Paulie in Rocky, is also in this film. A lot of other actors, lesser known. Young Jennifer Connelly's in this film during the young kids segment. This is a super long movie, very long. Doesn't feel long when you're watching it. It feels like it goes by pretty quickly, and I think it's because it's segmented out. And right off the bat, I just want to talk about how the movie exists as this complex narrative structure where you have Robert De Niro's character David Noodles Aronson, who we see him at three different stages of his life. We see him as an adult man, we see him as an old man, and we see him as a young hood rat kid in the 19 teens, I believe, in 1918. And this is sort of during the period of Prohibition and bootleggers, and kind of the beginnings of the mafia in America, and the Teamsters, and all the corruption and all the seedy kind of underbelly of kind of what built out America in the beginning, and then kind of where it all leads to. And we kind of go through the different time periods out of order or out of sync, or it's narratively in order. It's very precisely constructed by Sergio Leone. Sergio Leone is the director of the spaghetti western films with Clint Eastwood, The Man with No Name trilogy, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and then, of course, what many people regard as his real masterpiece, Once Upon a Time in the West, which is I think that's a film that Kim and I could cover together because it's so great, and it's also kind of an art, like, it's a film school movie, but also just a great movie. This movie is a little bit more, I think, of a film school type movie. A lot of people think that this is his masterpiece, which, is kind of hard to argue when you actually get all the way through it and you kind of see the whole breadth of what he was doing. And it is really a magnificent sort of meditation on many different things about life and dreams and ambition, and identity and aging and memory and it almost feels like watching Inception a little bit. It's like, because right off the bat when you're watching the film, it feels like you're watching a sequel to The Godfather or something. Like it almost looks like the same set as Godfather 2 when De Niro plays young Vito. The film sort of opens with this strange sequence where we see Noodles being chased, and he goes into an opium den, and we hear the telephone ringing a million times, and we see him discover that his friends have been incinerated in this police raid, and he goes looking for this money and in this locker, and there's no money there, and what's going on? And then we see him go get a train ticket to get as far away from New York as possible. We see him look at himself in a mirror, and it's like this. One of my favorite scenes actually in the movie is he looks at himself in the mirror, and then we hear the song "Yesterday" by the Beatles, and then suddenly he's an old man looking in the same mirror, and then we continue, and then we don't really know what's going on. He goes to see his friend Mo. He's got a letter, tells his friend Mo that we know who you are. The letter says we know who you are, and we found you, and he's come to find out who wrote him the letter, and Mo doesn't know what's going on, and then he looks through the little hole, and he sees Deborah, young Jennifer Connelly, also played by Elizabeth McGovern, as an adult. We see her dancing, and then we go to him as a kid, and then we go from there. It's a crazy sort of narrative. It's a tour de force of like understanding film narrative and how lyrical movie making is, in that it can just take you wherever the director wants to take you, and he's so precise in this film about where he's trying to take the audience. And it's just as you're watching, you think like, oh, this is almost 4 hours long, it must be a boring movie. It's not a boring movie at all. It is very impactful film. It has sort of, it's called Once Upon a Time in America, but it almost, as you're watching, it almost feels like a foreign film. There's these long scenes where like there's the kid gets the cupcake, and he's sitting there with the cupcake because the girl tells him she's gonna do things with him if he gives her the cupcake, but then he can't help himself and he starts eating the cupcake. We watch him eat the whole cupcake, and it's a like I'm just sitting there like, I'm just watching this kid eat a cupcake. That's, I don't think they could do that now. You really do get lost in this movie as we sort of watch the bootleggers go through their kind of their odyssey, and we see Noodles. Initially there's the confrontation with Bugsy. He ends up killing Bugsy. He goes to prison. He comes back. Now he's an adult. Now it's De Niro. And James Woods is now playing Max, his friend. They joined together when they were kids, and they've now sort of become these prolific sort of bootleggers and are sort of running these syndicate operations in New York. And they get involved with the Teamsters. They get involved with Joe Pesci, and they start doing these different heists where they're kind of establishing themselves, and they're getting more and more powerful. Meanwhile, there's sort of a tension between James Woods and De Niro, and it's sort of like James Woods' character wants to become bigger than this. He has a bigger dream in mind. He wants to become great, and not, he doesn't want to just be some hood rat. De Niro's character, of course, is in love with the young Jennifer Connelly, now played by Elizabeth McGovern, as they're adults. The Deborah character, who wants to go off and become an actress. They're in love with each other, but she's like, there's no future with De Niro's character, because you're just a dumb kid, and you can't live for yourself. And there's a very controversial scene in the film where they go on a date, and De Niro's character, at the end of the date, when he realizes that she's not gonna be with him, his character rapes her. And it is a very horrific scene, because we watch this play out, and we then basically see their relationship die. It is I I'm very torn on that scene because I understand what Leone was trying to say, which is that this is what this world is, and these are terrible human beings, and we kind of have to see how terrible this character actually is, and how loathsome, and how badly De Niro's character Noodles thinks of himself, and that's why he gets to where he gets when he's old. When he's old, he's sort of going around and trying to figure out who wrote him the letter. He goes to the grave site of the three his James Woods and the other two friends that died when he was younger, and there's money in the grave, so it's very confusing. Like, what is going on? This doesn't seem real. He finally goes and sees Deborah again as an old man, and Deborah reveals to him that she's married to this man named Bailey, who's like this powerful, rich sort of figure, and that she sort of seems sort of like she's okay with everything that happened, but it doesn't quite make sense why that would be so. He goes to confront Bailey because the job that he's been given for the money that's in the grave is to take out Bailey. Bailey's with the Teamsters Union. There's this whole corruption scandal, and then we get to the final sort of confrontation between De Niro and James Woods. James Woods had faked his death when they were younger, stole all the money that they had collected together as bootleggers, and then he became this very prolific businessman. Meanwhile, De Niro went into hiding, and De Niro became sort of a boring, I go to bed early, as he says in the film, guy. And then we have this wonderful scene with the two of them where James Woods reveals to him that he needs him to kill him because he's going to go down for this corruption scandal. And De Niro looks at him, and he says he doesn't refer to him as Max. He refers to him as Bailey, never breaking from this new reality that you're Bailey. Max died that night. Our friendship died. I haven't killed someone in a long time. I have my hands shake now. I'm not that guy anymore. And it's this great scene because we see the flashbacks of them as kids. We realize like what was really important in their lives. What really mattered were those beautiful friendships and the love that he had with Deborah and those different things. And those things were lost because of this corrupt, horrible existence as these syndicate, mafioso guys, and the terrible things that they did to people, the people they killed, and all that was all bad. So it has a great sort of resolution at the end, and also Deborah's character was now married to Bailey, so James Woods had basically taken everything from De Niro's character. It's a very complicated plot, but the thing that we get to at the end is all worth it, and De Niro doesn't kill him, and then we have the whole famous scene where James Woods walks behind the trash compactor truck, and then he disappears, implying maybe he jumped into it, which is kind of an interesting little motif. There's lots of motifs, but then at the very end of the film, in the opening, De Niro's been hanging out in an opium den at the beginning when he's an adult, and he sort of, that's why we hear the phone ringing over and over, and we hear this strange, surreal sort of sequence where it's all sort of disorienting. At the very end of the film, we see him as a young man going back into that opium den. He turns over and smiles, looking directly at the camera, implying perhaps that everything after that, when he's older and comes back and sees James Woods one more time and sees Deborah one more time, all of that is actually just a dream. It's not real. And I kind of like that interpretation of the film, or it doesn't really matter to me if it is real or not, honestly, because it is sort of like De Niro's character has arrived at this understanding why everything that happened to him is what happened to him, and it doesn't require necessarily a further analysis, or it's just what it is, and now he can go off and sort of die in peace, I suppose, or be, just be at peace with everything. but it is sort of this eerie ending that people still talk about, him turning and looking directly at the camera at the end of the film. But we see throughout the film a lot of the things. If you've watched other Sergio Leone films, we see a lot of sort of sound effects, sort of set pieces. Some of the sequences where there's gun fighting or gunplay or whatever almost feel like some of the westerns that he shot with Eastwood or Once Upon a Time in the West. There's the way that the characters will sort of move around, and there's a whole chase sequence in like a factory that feels very much not like a typical mobster film. It's like the merger of the mobster and the western, but it becomes this other sort of existential movie that is sort of broadly. It's not really a gangster film, like in many respects. It's not like Goodfellas or even The Godfather. It's this other thing. It's this sort of spiritual movie, but it has this really wonderful score, and it's just different. It just feels different as you're going through it and as you're tracking through it, and you realize, once you get to the end, kind of what the film was this operatic thing that the film was sort of taking you through. And there's really bizarre sequences in it, like the baby swapping sequence, the whole date with Deborah is just this long, like he takes her to the most lavish restaurant, and it's just them, and he's still reminiscing about Dominic, the kid that died when he was young, when he kills the Bugsy character. And there's like this strange sort of loose thread throughout the film of sort of the thematic sort of narrative, and it's not really about realism. The whole thing is it feels like a big dream, and it's one of the best performances I've ever seen by De Niro. Like even now, to play sort of the young man and the old man believably. The makeup's not great, but he really believably plays an old man. And James Woods is kind of steals the movie, to be honest with you. James Woods is just staggering, just towering performance by James Woods. I think it's just one of the great films of like world cinema that really has ever been made. It is a sort of a melancholy, tonally, but with a sense of like hope and a sense of a message that is really worthwhile at the end of it if you can get through it, and just unbelievable performances. It's like it feels free of the restraints of like a typical film of this form, and it just stands out on its own as its own thing. And over the years, it's become this sort of like revered film that's like this is sort of a special thing, and you have to be in a special mood to watch it. I would recommend, if you watch this movie, take a whole day, dedicate a whole day to it, make some spaghetti, get some wine, some good wine, watch it with some people that are like cinephiles, that are into movies like this, and understand that there's going to be a very, very controversial rape scene in the film. I would say it's not good for people in 2025 to be surprised by that scene now, because that is one tough scene in the movie, but everything that's in that film is done for a reason, and it's done to get us through to this conclusion that is very satisfying and beautiful. And it's just one of the great films I've ever seen, ever. And rest in peace, Sergio Leone, one of the great directors of all time. Well, that concludes this Film School with Michael episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's inspired you to perhaps go in and study Once Upon a Time in America, or watch it, rediscover it. But that's the point of this segment of the channel, is to, I guess, inspire people that are into sort of filmmaking as a medium, maybe are aspiring filmmakers, or just are sort of fans of the more obscure cinema, that's out there that is very sort of art house and something you'd see in a film class. But in the meantime, stay real, have good takes, and I'll see you soon.